for the next 2 hours and the things which are important then for us. So please note that this webinar is recorded. So if you do not want to be seen, then switch off your camera, and we would also ask you to mute your microphones during the presentation, which you will see then, and you will give them the possibility to ask you questions or to make remarks at the end of each presentation. And if you have questions, then please use our chat box. And there you can also communicate with our experts here, which we have invited today. And just to give you a short overview of our program and where we are for the moment, here we have the actual one is the finance and funding webinar, which we have, but there are still some more webinars and workshops planned about which we will keep you informed in the next few weeks and months. So the goals for today are to give you a quick overview of the common financing mechanisms for energy communities. We would like to give you some useful and proven financing mechanisms and funding sources for energy communities. To do this, we have also invited Suzanne from Énergie Partagée in France, and Jean-Pierre von Energiesamen in the Netherlands to present some really interesting, innovative funding models, which maybe could be inspiring also for your and the activities in your respective countries. And we would also like to give you some practice experience and also discuss with you experiences and your good or bad practices in terms of finance and funding of energy communities. So then let's come to the agenda. The first part will be a short introduction. How can we finance energy communities? This shall give you an overview and some hints towards the topic finance and fundings. And then in the next steps, the next few presentations will be on the realization fund for energy communities of Energiesamen in the Netherlands. After these presentations, you will have the possibility to ask our expert, Jean-Pierre, and can also have a short discussion, but then we should come to the next presentation from Suzanne and also Sarah from Énergie Partagée, which will present something from the also European AC project, where they have learnings which was focused on financing and funding of energy communities, and from which they will present you some insights and learnings which could be of help also for your activities in your respective countries. After this, we have a short discussion and questions, answers to it, and then we'll go to an open discussion to the topic of finance and funding on a more general level, and like to invite you to bring your topics, your questions to this general discussions at the end of our webinar. And then we'll have roughly 4 p.m. and then we'll close the webinar today. So if you have any questions, please use the chat. And I would now start with a short introduction to the topic. How can we finance an energy community? Firstly, the question is, what do we want to finance? And therefore would like to make here a clear distinction between those two types of financing. The first one is the energy community as a legal entity. This means in terms of statutes, advisor, management of the EC, financial costs. This means really the legal entity, and we should distinguish this from the energy projects. This means the concrete installation, the concrete PV project or wind project or even shared mobility project, for which initial investment is needed, or also operation and maintenance costs or financial costs. So I think we should keep this in mind also for the discussion, which we will come then to, and also to the presentations. So as a citizen, we will define here as a not only a citizen, a person, a private person, but also a company or maybe a municipality. They can participate either in a legal entity or in a renewable energy project, or they can do both. This means being part of a cooperative, but also they could be a consumer in for example, a solar self-consumption installation. And for both parts, the energy community as a legal entity and the following energy projects, there will be maybe different funding sources and schemes and also timings and partnerships. And so this is, I think, the first important thing we should keep in mind now in the next few minutes and the next 2 hours. So then here to give you a short, really only a glimpse of an overview of the possibilities of financing and funding, we have the whole equity topic. This means raising money by selling shares, for example, in businesses. We have the debt category, which is, for example, about loans from banks. Then there is the whole area of grants, subsidies. We have, of course, the donations, but I think this is rare that something like this exists. But maybe there are big entrepreneurs or business people who like to contribute to the common good of society and or maybe also to climate mitigation, and they donate money. And then we have this so-called in-kind financing possibilities. This could be, for example, if you use a service as a payment or a compensation for using a good. This is, for example, the solar self-consumption installation would be a kind of example for this and how this could be financed. So one of the biggest challenges for the development of ECs and also EC projects is, of course, also the financing and funding aspect. So there are many facilities and possibilities for financial aids, but usually at a national level. But of course, there are also European programs, for example, the Recovery Fund or also the European Investment Bank. They all give grants or even loans. And so you have then, of course, the possibility that people who are part or who profit from energy communities are shareholders of these energy communities or have shares in it and finance it, or they finance it via crowdfunding directly via their community. And for mostly bigger projects and the realization of projects, you then need mostly bank loans or other ways of financing. But such loans are often connected also to guarantees, which make this a little bit difficult in many cases. So now to the municipality support, which is possible, or where we see a kind of a chance also for municipalities and public authorities to support energy communities, not only on a financial level, but also in terms of technical and of EC and project development. A possible role is, of course, technical assistance and capacity building. This is the building, for example, of a technical assistance office, which is also part here of the LIFE-BECKON project, and which we try to support via building up a capacity building within our LIFE-BECKON project. Municipalities can also help to facilitate partnerships in their local areas and to create networks, which kind of give them mutual help and support them with experiences and also with knowledge and technical expertise. We have the level of local energy planning, for example, regional planning, where it's also about surfaces or spaces and local areas which are maybe suitable for the building up of PV, also rooftops on municipal buildings. And we have all this possibility of partnering with among local authorities and also with stakeholders for project development. And as I said, this providing their own public spaces for installations or also free areas for installations. On the other hand, municipalities can support via guidance on financial planning, or they can give assistance in infrastructure investments, or they can also provide finances and resources, for example, initial seed funding. And there are many more options, so I cannot here go really into details, but here to give you some forms of financings which we think are most common for the moment. I give you this short overview. There's on the one hand, of course, the self-financing. This means that members of an EC, citizens, companies, municipalities can both function as investors and decision makers and contribute money into such projects and legal entities. We have the subsidies and grants at a local level, national level, European level, so the so-called next generation European funds, which is also from the Recovery and Resilience Fund of the EU, and their local branches. They offer here some grants, for example, in Italy. And we have, of course, bank financing, which is sometimes difficult to obtain because it depends on the guarantees, and mostly financing is only provided up to 80%, but not so much more. We have the green loans from the European investment banks. Then there are smaller kind of financial means provided by crowdfunding, also by lending. This is between private financing between different companies. And we have the leasing model. Leasing means that you lease an installation, for example, or a surface for a certain time. And then you have at the end the possibility to acquire it or to purchase it. And this is also a little bit different than renting, which does not include a purchase option, but means that the owner of the surface or the rooftop remains the same and gives not away the surface to the energy community. So another interesting model is the self-consumption of, for example, solar self-consumption here, but this depends now on the respective national law and also legislation. It is possible to sell electricity surpluses to the grid, but also here you have to consider the role of local or municipal energy providers and also of grid providers. And for example, in Germany, this is also quite a complex task and also not so difficult to realize, but it's an option, of course. And then finally, we have funds, so-called cooperative funds, which support energy communities, especially in their initial stage, but also invest in renewable energy projects. And of course, there are many more possibilities, but this is just to give you a kind of rough overview what financing would mean in the field of energy communities, and especially if you set up a legal entity, but also then in the next step, if you then plan a renewable energy project on a rooftop or even on a open space in your municipality. And well, that's it from my side at the moment. And I would now continue and give the floor to Jean-Pierre for the first presentation. And Jean-Pierre, maybe you introduce yourself in a few sentences, and then we'll start with your presentation. And welcome here, and thanks a lot for preparing this presentation here for our replicators.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for having me. I am from the Netherlands. My name may suggest that I am French. I have a nice French first name, but I'm not French. I'm not even Belgium. I'm just from Holland, from the flatlands. Sun is shining, the skies are blue, so life is good. And I'm very pleased to be talking to you today. We have a little bit of experience. Let me see if I can share my screen. We have a little bit of experience in the Netherlands with financing solutions for energy communities, and I am very pleased to take 15 minutes to show you a little bit of what we do. Now, I am part of an organization called Energie Samen. It's a federation of 450 local energy communities in the Netherlands. In the Netherlands, in total, there are just over 700 legal entities of energy communities, and there are about 350 municipalities. So you can calculate that every municipality on average has 2 local energy communities. So we're pretty well covered. In that sense, I think we're a pretty mature market when it comes to energy communities. So we are lucky in that sense, and we are lucky to share some of the experience that we've been able to gain. I myself are a member of the board of Energie Samen. I also head up our financing solution department and our communications team. We are a group of about 35 people, and we are a cooperative ourselves. So our organization is owned by our members, our 450 local energy communities. So all we do is for local energy communities, as they are our owners and our customers of all we do. So that's the background. I would like to talk to you about 3 things. One is to give you an idea as to when in the process of developing an idea or a project, local government funding is most effective. Then I'll share with you a clever idea from the Netherlands, well, at least something that we think is a clever idea. You can be the judge of that for yourself. And my third point is a plea to please not deny your community. And I will explain exactly what it is. Now, what I'll be sharing with you are good ideas from the Netherlands. Every country is different. So I have no I don't believe that our ideas are suitable for your situation, but maybe our ideas that we've developed from a practical point of view can inspire you to come up with an idea that actually may work in your market. So on the shoulders of a bad idea, you can build good ideas. I'm very happy to provide you with the bad ideas so you can develop them into your own good ideas. So when is local government most effective? Edgar has given a very extensive overview of different types of financing solutions, and that overview is much more comprehensive than what I want to show. But I would like to place those different types of money, if you will, in the development process of a project. And in fact, to relate the different types of finance to the investment level that's required at a certain stage of development and the risks associated with that financing solution. Now, from left to right, Edgar talked about the distinction between creating the legal entity of an energy community and, on the other hand, the creation of a project. I think you will find that in the initiation stage, sometimes we actually talk about the creation of the legal entity. The organization who wants to do something has to form itself. So that's on the left-hand side. We call that initiation phase. And then there's a development phase. You go from an early idea, a small group of people generating some interesting ideas, writing them up, developing them, talking to the municipality, talking to stakeholders, and ultimately, perhaps after phase 3, at the end of development, you actually have a plan that may work and it's financeable. And then if that all works and you have enough money to actually build your idea, you go into the building stage and the management of the project. Now, why is there a red line? The red line is where the plan is fully formed, including financing solution. So we call that financial close. At the end of that sort of theoretical phase 3, the plan has its permits, it has its quotations from people who want to build the installation, it has all the necessary grid connection and all that's necessary to actually build, including financing. That's financial close. Now, what you see, and these are the two diagonal lines, or what we are seeing, not what you see, but what we are seeing in the Netherlands, is that starting at the left-hand side, the risk involved in the project are the highest. When you know the least, your risk is the highest. Now, you go towards the right and you develop your plans, they become more concrete, you get your permits, you get your grid connection, and risk is basically managed out of the project. What also happens on the other diagonal is that in the beginning, the further you go along towards the right, the more money you need. The most money you need when you actually want to build the installation. The least money you need when risk is highest and uncertainty is greatest, which is in the beginning. For 5,000 euros, you may be able to set up a legal entity. That's very high risk because you have no idea whether your project is actually going to happen and work and make money, but also the investment required is relatively low. Now, if you consider that dynamic of risk going down as you develop your project, but the investment level required goes up, we see in the Netherlands that different types of financing become available. Banks, well, we all know banks, commercial loans, banks are in the business of minimizing risk. As soon as you can guarantee that nothing will go wrong, they're happy to lend you money. Well, life isn't like that, but they do like it when risk is very, very low. And at that stage, commercial loans are available. In general, I'm really generalizing, but I hope you catch my drift. Risk has been managed out of the project, and commercial loans from commercial banks become available. Now, in order to, like Edgar said, nobody is nowadays nobody finances 100% of a project. You have to bring equity. So before you can apply for a business loan, equity, money brought in by the community itself or by small shareholders, but it's risk money. That is the type of money that usually comes in just before commercial loans. In fact, commercial loans, banks will require that you have a level of equity in your project before they talk to you about a loan. Okay, so equity naturally fits around about the development phase. And now this is where you come in. Before you can develop equity at the phase where the risk is the highest, but the investment requirements are relatively low, the project or the legal entity is basically looking for a Kickstarter. Who can help us get off the ground, take the first steps? And this is, I think, well, at least we see that in the Netherlands, that local government helps with a small amount of money, but it's a big help. And when you start, you have nothing, and a little bit really helps. A local municipality, local government, you are very close to your energy communities, close to your project. So we see that the local government support is a natural place to look for that initial little bit of money to get you off the ground. Okay. Now, why is that a good idea for a municipality to invest in such early stage? Well, one is that you can generate a multiplier effect. If you invest 10,000 in a project that then generates 100,000 of equity, that then generates €1 million worth of commercial loans, you can calculate a multiplier of your €1 having generated €100 of external additional investment. Now, in the Netherlands, that's an interesting ratio for governmental investors. So the multiplier effect. The second thing I want to stress is that when you talk to financiers, a lot of them don't want to be first. They don't want to be the first to put money into a project. They usually prefer to be second or third. And if you can be the first to take that first bit of high risk investment, then it becomes easier for the second, third, and fourth financier to come on board. So that's I call that the second mover effect. You may be surprised that if you put a little bit of money in, that other bigger investors will get confidence that, oh, okay, so somebody has already vetted this project and has put money in. I'm happy to step in as well. I call that the second mover effect. Okay. How am I doing for time, Edgar?
Just go on. I think it's really very interesting and
okay.
Convincing, and we'll follow you. Yeah,
of course. Okay. All right. So that was my first point, which was, when is it a good idea for local municipalities to invest? Now, here's something not, I was going to say completely different, but it's not. But it's a different problem that we tackled in a certain way. We found that, for example, commercial banks are not happy, but they are willing to invest, but they want to invest big money because they have difficulty dealing with small batches. They would like to build up a portfolio of 50 million, 100 million. Big financiers, they prefer to deal in big packages. But the problem is that our local energy communities don't want 100 million. They may want 30,000. So how do you bridge this big bag of available funds into small bite-size pieces that a local energy community can swallow? And what we did in the Netherlands, excuse me, we basically built in a legal and governance framework in between the financiers and the energy community on the left of two entities. One of the entities is my own organization, Energie Samen, and on the other hand, a fund controller who is an efficient and effective small loan processor. And we basically, Energie Samen plus this fund controller, we manage this system. And we manage this system based on standardized requirements that we have pre-agreed with the financiers. So the financiers have told us, we are happy to lend money to your local energy communities as long as they do this. And then comes a long list of documentation requirements. And we've negotiated those requirements together with the fund controller, and together we manage that process. So the financiers have put 100 million into a pot, agreed rules as to how that pot is going to be managed with two external parties who are in between, intermediaries between small money demand and big money financier. We, as Energie Samen, we know our energy community, so we are the sort of the client services part. We help the energy cooperative to make the right application, and also we provide knowledge sharing. We help the projects to succeed, because the financiers, they want to lend money, but they want to lend money to projects that are successful, and we help the projects to be successful. The fund controller is sort of an intermediary who takes away the legal hard work, the day-to-day legwork from the banks to provide small loans. So standardization and knowledge sharing is the key to unlocking big bags of money into smaller bite-sized batches that suit our energy communities. Now, we did this for financiers, the banks. We also did the same for national government money. So the national government has put in 25 million, for example, in a district heating fund, and through the same mechanism, we are now financing local district heating projects at 1 million each. The government doesn't want to be involved in managing 1 million euro loans, but we are very happy to do that, and we found an intermediary who does the legal work. So this system of taking a big bag of money, chopping it into smaller bits, agreeing beforehand what the rules are for distributing that money and managing it, that's a proven success factor. And we add knowledge sharing to increase the success rate of those projects. So that's that. That was the clever idea. We think it's a clever idea. So that was the clever idea. You know, happy to go into more detail with you, and maybe you can make it into a better idea that will work for your market. Now, final thought that I want to leave with you. You as municipalities are very close to your own community. Energy communities can't move away from where they live. They are in your village, in your town, in your area. Now, the scarcest resource in your area is land. So the land or the available square meters or hectares to develop a project are scarce. And please don't give away that opportunity to develop to a commercial developer or to an international investment company or a Japanese bank. Because if you do so, if you give away the scarce resource, which is the land, if you give that away to other entities, you're basically denying your community to grow. And I think you want your communities to grow and be successful and to participate in the Energiewende and the energy transition. Okay, so that was my those were my 3 points. I'm happy to take questions, expand. I'm very interested to know what you think.
Thank you very much, Jean-Pierre, also for your really interesting model, and you also presented it in a really well and easy understandable way. Thank you very much. Maybe you could describe an example or a kind of a good case or whatever, what you have, a good practice, how this worked, you know, maybe in recent times you have in mind some project which you kind of supported with your financing mechanism, and how this worked, you know, what do kind of people who want to create development energy committee, how do they proceed if they get in touch with you, and what are the next steps, just to that we have a kind of, you know, idea how it works in practice. Thank you.
Yeah, well, recently we financed about just over 50 projects so far with the realisatiefonds, and the loans are all between 30,000 to just over 1 million each. Now, 1 million euros to you, me is big money, but to banks it's too small. So what we are seeing is that also relatively big projects for maybe who need 2 million euros for PV land projects, they knock on the door of the banks, and the banks, they say, I'm sorry, but I can't help you, it's too small. So luckily we have a very good relationship with the banks, and the banks then refer the energy community to the realisatiefonds. And strangely enough, 2 million is very interesting for the realisatiefonds. but it's not interesting for commercial banks. So, and we are dedicated to help them. So within weeks, because we have a standardized way of working, within weeks we can complete the full dossier and the complete file of application. And the fund controller can process an application very quickly as well, because it's all standardized. And yeah, within 6 weeks they have their loan, and everybody's happy. Bank is happy, realisatiefonds happy, applicants happy, climate happy, everybody happy.
Okay, there are also some questions on the chat, but Fiona, would you like to ask your question?
Yeah, great. Hi, Jean-Pierre. It's Fiona Zimmerman. I work at the Energy Living Lab in Switzerland, and we're working very hard with municipalities and all the different stakeholders to try to get energy communities off the ground. There's a lot of legal barriers, and the business model is not clear yet. You said several times to be successful and have a successful energy community. So how do you define that is the first question, because I'm also a researcher and I'm doing my doctorate with the Dutch Research Institute for Sustainable Transitions in Rotterdam. And I am researching social innovation and really looking at energy communities and trying to find energy communities, let's say, try to find the spillover effects of energy communities for social innovation, because I suppose we're concerned to a certain extent that energy communities will just continue to reiterate the same unsustainable pathways. And what we're really looking for is examples of energy communities that have actually, that are really changing the energy transition. So have you seen any of those, and how do you measure success?
Yeah, well, see, in the Netherlands, we're lucky because an energy community is a defined legal entity. It's a business, basically. Not like a limited company. It's a cooperative model where ownership of the business is related to membership. So if you have 100 members, they are each 100th of ownership of the business. So that's one. Now that helps us because in legal terms, it creates opportunities to do business. Now you're asking, do you know of any successful energy communities? Well, yes. All the energy communities who become successful businesses are, as far as we're concerned, successful. So they operate as a business, they make profit, and they reinvest their business, their profits in society. For example, there is a couple of wind energy communities who've made a lot of money over the last few years because the energy prices have been very high. They have been able. They put money into an area fund to keep the local swimming pool open if the municipality doesn't have the money. They have installed electric share cars for their members to use. And recently, a wind community basically invited the people to apply for €1 million. They basically had €1 million left over profit that they wanted to invest in community projects. And 42 projects came forward and wanted some money to build community things, all sorts. Now, that's on a relatively small scale. In Belgium, there's an energy community with 65,000 members, and they are a major player in the energy market. They basically have been able to keep their energy prices stable throughout the energy crisis because their prices are not linked to the international energy market, and they are hugely successful. It's EcoPower. It's one of the partners of our ACE program that Suzanne and Energy Partagé is part of as well. And for me, that is a very, very successful model of energy community, and there the ownership and the use of energy is in the same hands. So the local people own the assets and they buy the energy from their own energy community. So I look at them as businesses. So if you ask me what's this, and a good business makes money, and that money is reinvested into the local community, and that's what we see in the Netherlands as a successful model for energy communities.
Okay, thank you, Jean-Pierre. Now, Ricardo, please.
Hi, Jean-Pierre. Thank you very much for your very interesting presentation. My question was concerning the scale. Maybe I have missed it at the beginning. The scale of your organizational capacity. I mean, how did Energy Summon come about, and how many people are actually working there? What is the scale we have to imagine that makes such a model work?
Yeah. Okay. Good question. Energy Samen, we're about 35 full-time, no, not full-time, about 35 people, about 25 full-time employees. Our financing solutions team is 3 people, including myself, well, half of me, and then 3 members of staff. And our origin is we basically formed as an organization from smaller organizations that were trying to do the same thing, but 15 years ago. So if you look at the roots of Energy Samen, we have our roots in the very early eco warriors that started, hugging trees 20 years ago and had crazy ideas of taking control of the energy transition. So yes, no, we've progressed through development as an organization, and the size. So we are 3 people, and we have a portfolio of 4 financing solutions, and we channel about 30 to 40 million euros of funds, roughly. So that gives you an idea of scale. But Suzanne's is much bigger. They do a lot more money.
Okay, thank you. Andrea, would you like to ask your question now to Jean-Pierre?
Yeah, I was thinking, thanks a lot, Jean-Pierre, for the amazing presentation. I was thinking, taking in mind the picture that you showed about the financing requirements and the risks. From a local authority perspective, what do you think are the crucial conditions to make the risk as low as possible?
Yeah, I think as a local municipality, I think you should take the long view. And the long view is about what is your vision of the future? How do you want your society to be? And you can offer an opportunity to local energy communities, and some will fail. Right? Sometimes you will give money and you won't get it back, or it will, but that's part of the game. One of the things that you should insist on, however, is that local energy communities support each other through knowledge sharing. That is one of the big, I call energy communities a business. The big difference between energy communities and regular businesses is that they don't compete. They work together, but they work together as businesses. So they work together as an ecosystem that wants to learn from each other. So knowledge sharing, allowing energy communities to try and fail, but learn from those mistakes, or to try and succeed and replicate those successes. That is a key factor. And you as a municipality, I think, have a key role to play in insisting that knowledge sharing is done. So, and you should use the fact that energy communities are businesses, but not competitive. Right? They don't try and compete each other out of the market. They try to help each other. Everybody's success is good for everybody. So how can you minimize risk? My answer is minimizing risk is very difficult, but you can give success a chance, and you do that by insisting on knowledge sharing.
Okay, thanks a lot. And I also see a lot of links also with the questions made by Fiona. No, so what you said, no, it's really important. I think they are businesses, energy communities, but they are not competing, them each other. No, they are networking. So it's like also but maybe Fiona also this is a way for really creating this social innovation, no, between really local communities. It's really a great power really to build on the vision, the ambition of the local authority. Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot.
Okay, Jean-Pierre, one last question. How do you convince municipalities, to invest in this initial phase? You told us that minimize risk is really important, but you have a success story, for example, you can maybe show you have supported such many energy communities from the scratch, and so they developed in successful business models. Or what do you do really to bring them, to this first investment? Because as we know in Germany, the municipalities and also districts, they try to avoid risk, and they are really scarce of money, and they have so many obligations which they have to finance. So it's really difficult for them to get some extra money, to
I understand that.
Into risk.
I would say two things. One is the energy transition needs to happen, and it needs to happen fast. And that means that everybody needs to play a role. National government, national institutions, big corporations, but also from the ground up. The local communities have a big role to play. A lot of the problems that we are seeing in the energy transition and in accelerating the energy transition, actually the solutions to some of those problems, like self-consumption, are at a local level. Energy storage is a local solution. So energy communities are really important in that whole big energy transition requirement of that task that we've set ourselves. And the second thing I would say is you have an opportunity to create that multiplier effect. If you put in €1 and it ultimately triggers €100 of investment in the energy transition, then your €1 was a euro very well spent. There aren't many mechanisms where you can get multiple. I know from a government point of view in the Netherlands, they look for a multiplier of 20 times. We are able to give them 40, 50, 60, 100 times because the desire is there to participate on multiple levels. Also, the banks, they want to invest, but somebody needs to kick it off. And I think municipalities are at the best possible place to kick it off.
All right, thank you. So then, are there any more questions to the presentation of Jean-Pierre? Are you fine? Okay, then Susanne and Sarah, please, the floor is yours, and start, please.
Thank you, Edgar, and thank you for inviting us to share our knowledge and our experience in France. So how, as Jean-Pierre said, the ACE project is a European LIFE project that we participate in together, and that's focusing on access to capital for energy communities. And there's a lot of thinking and understanding that I will share today that comes from this project. So where do I speak? And my colleague Sarah is also there today, and she will maybe add a few things and a few remarks to my presentation. So where do we speak from? Énergie Partagée, the National Federation of Energy Communities in France, has been founded 15 years ago, mostly by pioneers energy communities. It has received public support, and in particular, it's recognized by national administrations as well as regional administrations as the primary representative of energy communities in France. So today we have over 500 member organizations. They develop 400 projects. So here again, we find the distinction you made, Edgar, between organizations and projects. And as Jean-Pierre said, Énergie Partagée has also developed a specific tool that we run and operate, where we crowd raise citizen capital. So basically, individuals put their savings, their money in Énergie Partagée as equity. So we have a dedicated vehicle for this. It's called Énergie Partagée Investissement. And then from all this capital that we've raised from citizens all across France, from also citizens who sometimes are not able to find success in their local energy communities but want to support other communities. So we use this citizen capital to add up to the local capital of energy communities in their own projects. So this is basically what the team that I head is doing. And today we have invested in over 150 energy communities projects, and we invest mostly in projects and not only in communities. So there is a small typo here in my slide. Yeah, basically, so this is where we gather all the knowledge and experience that we will share in the coming slides. Sorry, this is okay. Let's do this way. So I'm just going to share 3 examples and try to address the question of how municipalities and local governments can help local communities, energy communities, find funding, financing, and accelerate. So first, if we're looking at a very local level, if there is an energy community in your area, in your town, how a municipality can help these communities accelerate. A very common example is that these communities, they're looking for access to space, to rooftops, to open areas. So it's sort of the last point of Jean-Pierre's presentation. Don't deny them access to that. At the contrary, facilitate, and the municipalities can facilitate the access to rooftops, for example, on their old buildings, on schools, and many times of different buildings. And municipalities, if they engage in these local communities, so if they also take a few equity shares in the local communities, they will engage their trust for the community, which means it's sort of the second mover effect that Jean-Pierre also talked about. If the municipality is showing its trust towards the communities, then it will kickstart more trust even from other citizens, from other public institutions. So this is a way you can get a snowball effect. And of course, municipalities will also bring funding. And even if it's not a lot of funding, if we add up all the funds from different municipalities, it can make a difference. So for instance, Énergie Citoyenne is a community in the metropolitan area of Grenoble, so a city in the French Alps. We have, it's also one of my communities, over 500 citizen shareholders. And so these citizens have brought over 500,000 euros to the communities. And there are 13 public funders, so the municipalities and the metropolitan body. So if you count only like 20,000 euros per municipality, you can see that it will add up to almost half of what the citizens are able to raise. So even small sums from different municipalities can create here again this snowball effect in funding. So this is a first example at a very local level. Sorry, it's just sliding this way. If we look a bit bigger and higher up on ground-mounted PV, so we have another example amongst many other examples that can answer the question of how municipalities can not only help accelerate, but also leverage their own assets to scale up the clean energy transition, because they are pursuing the same interest or very common interest with energy communities let's say, under the umbrella of the greater good or, public interest goal. So what are the assets of the municipalities? Here in this example, the municipality was owning the land where it used to be a landfill area, so it's not adequate anymore for agriculture. The municipality owns it. It wants to develop a PV plant on it, and so it can issue a tender and ask for developers to sort of make a bid in how they can develop PV there, what would be their conditions, and so on. And to these kind of bids, energy communities can answer. And if in the tender there are extra financial criteria that target local ownership or sharing the benefits with local communities and so on, then the energy communities will be able to to put a value on what they bring at the extra financial aspects. And it's also important to say that it's possible to open up these extra financial criteria up to at least 30% of the total criteria weights. And then if the energy communities is making an offer that's competitive enough, if the municipality wants to go with it, then it will bring political sponsorship and, again, trust to these energy communities. And for instance, the Champ de Livaux power plant is a good example, because we even had this municipality who had the land, and it asked a special player that's called Société d'économie mixte to help them develop the solar plant. So as Jean-Pierre said, all our ideas and solutions cannot be replicated on a one-on-one basis in other countries. But basically in France, we have public operators that play at district or regional level to develop renewable energy projects, and they can develop and fund these projects. And here, the municipality asked this public operator to partner with energy communities, because they knew the energy communities would be able to bring benefits for the greater inhabitants that maybe the public operator would not have the right tools for doing so. But this partnership would be, the good tandem to make that happen. So these were the successful steps in this project. So there was a co-development partnership with the municipality, this public operator, and also Énergie Partagée. So we took our share for funding the risk part, the development phase, that Jean-Pierre talked about. And then once the project was ready to build, when it needed more capital, then we went all together to ask for the inhabitants to bring their capital also for construction phase. And so now my screen is split, but you can see that the project has raised 350,000 euros in citizen capital by Énergie Partagée, which is our sort of pooling funds for citizens, and also by Ensoleil Sol, PEPS, which is the very local energy community. So this is another example of how to leverage assets and to partner with energy communities and other public operators to be able to really scale up and reach, so this is a 7 megawatt solar plants, and we're reaching even bigger and greater projects, be it in solar or also in wind. And then let's go to my third example, which is if we go a bit further from the field again, like one step more, And if we look at what can local governments do also, and how can they partner with energy communities to demultiplicate, I'm not sure if that's right in English, the impact of public funding. So this is also what Jean-Pierre said. What's really important here is if we want to have a leverage effect, a multiplying effect on public funding, we need knowledge sharing between projects, and energy communities and their federations are often the best placed to provide this knowledge sharing, and so to really be able to have success and deliver success, to go back also to the question that was asked. Basically, what is a second order energy community? This is very vague, but it's a way to say that some communities are smaller and some are bigger because they've been there for longer, because they are federations or networks. So for instance, as Jean-Pierre said, Energiesamen is a cooperative. So it's an energy community, even if it's sort of at a higher level. Same thing for Énergie Partagée. And these kind of players are really pivotal to leverage the impact of public funding, because they will provide this knowledge sharing and help really to make the public funding, let's say, successful. So this is an example of a call for projects that was issued by the Occitanie region, so really local government. And the region has decided to provide structural funding for the network of energy communities in the region. That's called Éclair. So it's one of the regional, let's say, regional levels. And then the national one is Énergie Partagée in France. And the region has decided also to open a call and to distribute early stage subsidies that can range from 10,000 euros to a very maximum of 100,000 euros for the biggest projects. And what they've decided is that they will rely on Éclair, so on the regional energy community network, to standardize the process, to simplify the access for energy communities, to make also the call understandable, and to help the knowledge sharing between the projects. And so I think it's a really good example, because really here you have the communities and the public local governments that work hand in hand together, and everyone is bringing what they know and their assets. So communities are bringing this knowledge sharing and how to grow bigger together, and the public is providing small stage subsidies, but because it knows that on the field the organization will be mature enough to really make this funding successful. So this is a good example of a partnership that really allows money to go to trip down until the field, and also to be used in the most effective way. So these were the three examples. Maybe I don't know how it is for the time, but I feel that I've maybe spoke fast. But yes, these are three examples that I wanted to share with you. And maybe just as a small wrap up, we see a lot of powerful partnerships between public players and citizen players at many levels. So as I said in my example, from the municipalities to the local governments, municipalities have assets, so spaces, trust, political sponsorships, funds, know-how on specific topics. Citizens have assets as well, engagement, dedication, private finance, know-how, even if it's volunteer on specific topic as well. We have interests that align pretty well. So there are political objectives. There's the willingness of citizens to engage in their energy transition. All of them want to maximize local benefits. So if we work together, use this aligned interest, then we can build very different and powerful public and citizen partnerships. So this is, for us, this is really key to scale up the energy transition and to have it owned and decided at the local level. So yes, so for instance, in Énergie Partagée, we've wrote a lot of guides on how to co-develop projects, how to align interests, and so on. And also in the ACE projects, we also developed a toolbox with a stronger focus on financing. That's it. A bit quick, but
thank you very much, Susanne, and also Sarah, for preparing this presentation. Very interesting as well. And so now, are there any questions? So, for example, what I asked myself was now also to Jean-Pierre and Susanne. What do you think? You're working with Énergie Partagée and Energiesamen on a quite large scale, you know, you're kind of national organization, which has kind of project in all of France and also in the whole Netherlands. And does success really also depend on a certain kind of amount of projects and possibilities which you create, or could you imagine kind of a role of intermediary you play? Could you also imagine or figure out this in a, for example, on a district level or a regional level? Would this work, or do you need more economies of scales, you know, to make it work and also to generate trust towards the people or the banks who invest, or all investors, you know, possible investors? How do you think? Because I think this would also be interesting to be implemented in Germany, but the question is, on what level can you start, and what makes sense and not sense, and is economically feasible or not, you know?
Do you want to go first, Susanne, or shall I?
Sure, I can just say a few words and then I'll leave the stage to you. And it's also, your question is also linked, for example, with the third example, with the Association Éclair. So for us, there is a very strong rationale to work at regional level, because that's where the people meet, where you can, you know, find interest and knowledge also of the local ecosystem and so on. So district level might be small for let's say all the levels, like all the topics that we want to address. District level is still very powerful on many aspects. And for instance, this energy communities in Grenoble, they are reaching to over a dozen of municipalities, and it's because they have people in all these municipalities that they really can reach some scale that make like an economy of scale at this level. So it really depends on what kind of projects, what kind of issues we want to tackle, but definitely pooling projects together or sharing knowledge can be effective from the district level, and regional level can be a very good scale as well.
Yeah, I would agree with all of what you said, Susanne. See, Energiesamen didn't start as a national organization. It all starts from the ground up. And yes, it helps to be able to bundle and to scale. But for me, if I was to start, or if I look at the history of Energiesamen, it is littered with failure. You know, we are only able to do the funds, to create the financing mechanism that we have, because we made some mistakes in the past. And those mistakes were made at a small level, not at a national level, but at a small level. So my tip would be, start where you feel comfortable. Start at the scale where you feel comfortable, because success will create its own follow-on, and failure will create its own follow-on. And there is an element of trust that the energy communities need to build within society as a whole, with financiers, with legislators, and it doesn't start big. It starts small with a small success and another one, and then one here, one there, and it grows from there organically from the bottom up. So, and then you reach a scale, and then you can take the next step. So I don't know if that's an answer to your question, but my tip would be start where you feel most comfortable, but start. Don't plan too much in terms of national, regional, departmental. Go where you find the opportunity, create the coalition of the willing, get the stakeholders together who are ready to move, and then move to improve, make the mistakes, celebrate the successes, move to improve, learn from where you were, share learning. That's one of the key things in the energy community sector, is that we can all learn from our own failures and successes. And whichever country you are, you can learn from what we did in the Netherlands, from France. We are happy to share. And the ACE project has a big toolbox of available learning. So take the first step, take the risk, and learn from whatever happens next.
So if I understood it correctly, you both are from kind of non-governmental organizations, you know? You came up from kind of a civil society movement, or you were people really engaged in energy transition. But could you also figure out that maybe in a municipality, a technical assistance office on energy agency kind of specializes in the field which you now work in? Or is this kind of, you know, is the advantage of your kind of coming into existence and your success story is a little bit based on this kind of activism, you know, from civil society, not so much, you know, coming from public authority or from, you know, some existing institution? How would you estimate this?
Yeah. Well, we sometimes see that some of the questions that the municipality is being asked by society, by its people, are actually being answered by a local energy community. So we have this thing called an energy coach. It's a training module that we provide as Energy Samen, and so we have about 3,500 energy coaches throughout the Netherlands who've been trained, and they are then hired by the municipality to help their people. So it's not a functionaire, not a member of the municipality who goes to help you with your insulation and your questions. So the local energy community as an organization becomes a partner of the municipality to help solve the common problems.
I see. And Susanne, what would you recommend?
To add up on that, I would say that at least in France, we see a very strong culture of partnering between energy communities and local municipalities. So, of course, the municipality, they have their functions, their agendas, their knowledge and know-how. They cannot do things instead of energy communities, but they can find what are their everyone's assets, everyone's forces, everyone's needs, and then they can really build very strong partnerships between citizens and municipalities. And for us, this is what we see. Like, we've even published a whole sort of guide and brochure about this to document all the different examples and levels of projects, different actions, to say this can be very broad. There's a whole spectrum of what you can do, what kind of partnerships you can develop. But really, if municipalities engage with their local communities, and if communities engage with the municipalities, then this will be very powerful. And this means sometimes that if there is not an energy community, that the municipality can decide to sort of hold an event about the energy transition, trying to give keys to citizens on how they can engage, linking them also to other citizens in other municipalities, as Jean-Pierre said, for inspiration. And then this will help kickstart a local community, and then partnerships are very, very powerful.
I just want to add maybe one thing. One big topic of the last couple of years has been energy poverty. There are whole areas of cities that are where people are suffering from energy poverty, and municipalities have been struggling. We call it to get behind the front door. Sounds a bit scary, but what they mean is to really engage with these people, to speak their language, to be on a, to be considered to be a helpful person, to come and to have the conversation around the kitchen table. And they generally fail at doing so. They send out packages of stuff, and they're not effective. And what we are seeing now is that they're hiring local energy communities to do that work for them, because the local energy community people, they are from that same area. They speak the language. They are not exactly the neighbors, but almost. So they come at this contact from a different angle. They come from, I'm a citizen, you're a citizen. I can see, if you're in trouble, I want to help you. That's different from, so this is where the local energy community becomes a tool for the municipality to reach all of our objectives, and quite successfully. And this sort of one and this sort of getting behind the front door, like it's scary, but you know what I mean. It's really
the intermediary, between the people and also the local authority. That's great. Really, it's a really important aspect. And I think we also here in LIFE-BECKON, I don't know, our colleagues from Sofena, they, I think, made similar experiences with getting to the people who are poor, and to kind of consult them, how to save energy is really a different, very, very difficult challenge. And so, Fiona, you wanted to ask something also, please?
Yeah, so you're talking very much about partnerships there, obviously with the municipality and this kind of intermediary. So just looking at it from a living lab perspective, what would you see the role of researchers there? Because we talk about a quadruple helix model in living labs, where actually researchers have a role as well and can maybe help to de-risk some of the initial and build knowledge at the very early stage, of an energy community. So what would be your experience working with researchers and or living labs?
Just to make sure, because I don't know even well enough the living lab approach, but I understand this is really linked to research, what we could say research action or participatory approaches and so on, right? Okay. For me, it's
indeed what you're actually doing. You're both sound very, very much like living lab, but the part that is missing for me is the research part. It's really proving the impact and really, linking it with maybe experimentation a little bit, and so that's why I'm asking the question.
But I think that can be great, because actually we had to convey research on our own side to prove and document the impact. So for instance, Énergie Partagée, a couple of years ago, we documented the economic impacts of energy communities, and we, across like a statistical analysis of all the energy communities in France, we showed that they're between 2.5 and 3 times more economic benefits to the local area. Think when a project is run by an energy community, comparing as when a project is run by a classical private developer. So to conduct this research, we had like an overview body of the National Public Agency on Energy Transition that also, so it's called ADEME in France, it also runs a lot of research programs. So we were sort of at the interface of research and action. And same, like if 2 years ago we conducted a research on the social impact of energy communities projects. And we absolutely need to have this research to document the impact, and then to be able to claim support from municipalities, from local government, because of course they know they need to be told what's the difference and what extra financial benefits it brings. So for me, it's indeed, we have a lot of, how to say, like ongoing research that's sometimes not does not have the whole calendar of a research project, but that's still what we're doing. And we have a few colleagues who have PhD in sociology and or social sciences, and of course we leverage their knowledge and their approaches to document what we do, to be able to share knowledge, because sharing knowledge is not just having people in a room and discussing. It's how do you then you frame this knowledge, how do you sort of find the tipping points where this knowledge makes a difference for other projects, how do you share it, how do you train people afterwards. And this is like at the core of what Énergie Partagée does, of what the regional networks do. So if another partner organization sometimes is at the right place, has the funds, the resources to do so. And really, I think what's key is to have partnerships that are win-win on every side, and that everyone is aware that no one has the total expertise, and all the expertise must be co-constructed, co-built. So there, for me, there's room for these kind of approaches, of course, and it's it's very nice when external knowledge and expertise and methodology is brought to our projects and subjects.
Maybe one thing which I now comes to mind is in Germany there are a lot of or there are now developed online tools for calculation the local value creation of energy communities or of PV and wind park installations. And this is really helpful to show people also in municipalities the potential, the potential of kind of money which such projects generate, for example, in creating jobs, in renting land, etc., etc. And do you use such tools also in your daily work as a kind of intermediaries to convince municipalities, for this first step, the initial financing of energy communities? Or what tools do you use maybe in your way of convincing people to invest?
Yeah, I would be very interested to have a look at this tool and calculation, because indeed for Énergie Partagée we have developed a sort of small tool. We don't make it public because we know it's a lot of average values on many things, so we don't want people to take it as granted, but we try to have this like figures rational behind all that we say about revitalizing civic life and empowering people and doing a lot of pedagogy on the energy transition, and trying to have people better understand the role of energy in their lives, and how to also, we were talking about energy poverty, but also how to control the energy expenses and so on. So yes, we need to have both inspiring narratives and hard numbers to be able to convince everyone. But Jean-Pierre?
Yeah, no, I agree with everything. And we're a bit lucky in the Netherlands. We also have legislation at a national level that we have a climate accord or a climate agreement where about 4 years ago we agreed that 50% of local energy supply should be in the hands of local communities. That helps massively in focusing, attention. It wasn't a requirement; it was a sort of stated as an aim. But we should not forget national lobby efforts to produce legislation that help local energy communities. The European legislation is already slightly ahead of most national legislations. Suzanne, you probably know more about this than I am, because I'm more on the I come from a different angle, but so yes, I agree with everything. Good examples, calculating tools. Don't forget the euros, and they're really important. We may be quite sort of defining success in other terms than euros, but if we want the other 80% of people to come along and think with us, they need the euros. We need to show the euros. It's a plain fact. If we want to make a big impact, you have to show that it makes money or saves money as well. So I agree with all the intentions of what was said before.
Okay, great. So any more questions, or who would like to bring some questions or topics to financing, funding here now to us, to our discussion?
I have just another question, if possible. It's to do with positive energy neighborhoods and positive energy districts. It's kind of like a parallel topic in the European Union as well. But I'm just wondering, like, because there's still a lot of question about the business model and how to finance it, etc. And the same questions are being asked for positive energy neighborhoods and districts. So I'm just wondering, does anybody have any insights in terms of how the financing for, both of those together could be more interesting?
What's a positive energy community in your definition?
So it would be a neighborhood or a district that is using their own energy, storing it, but also exporting it to a community or have a community. So it's often side by side with an energy community.
Yeah. Okay. We are working on that extensively. So we call it local for local. Local for local is the vision whereby an energy community consists essentially of 4 parts. It's the citizens, it's the companies, it's the local government, and the networks, the energy distributors,
suppliers. Yeah.
It's more the technical grid.
Okay, the grid. Yeah.
Grid.
PSOs. Yeah.
They work together to match electricity with heating, supply and demand, storage, and to regulate that ecosystem at a price point that is fair and independent of the international market. So it's based on cost price plus instead of based on the international market. Now, so that what we have 7 communities that started a pilot about 2 years ago. We've now expanded with 20 more communities who are researching what is necessary to create that kind of local for local energy community system.
Okay, great.
So that looks at software, regulation, legislation, financing. It looks at the whole spectrum of what is required to create these self-sustaining energy communities. It's called Local for Local, and we're running that project.
Thank you.
Obviously, by the way, it's sponsored by the national government, so we get a subsidy to do these kinds of trials.
All right. So, are there any more questions to our experts, Jean-Pierre and Susanne, for a moment, to their presentations? If not, maybe we could. Ricardo, please.
It's not so much of a question, but more comment maybe. I was thinking about the German context, and there are some energy providers who actually help energy communities, not energy communities, energy cooperatives or energy communities to develop projects. For example, Naturstrom has a citizens energy part, or the Bürgerwerke, which is a citizens utility. It's a corporation of cooperatives, and they give the chance to energy cooperatives to they themselves pay the development cost of the project. So when you're thinking about the thing Jean-Pierre explained us with the high risk at the beginning, they are doing this kind of thing. And I don't know of any other governmental, regional or local authorities who are doing a similar thing, at least in the German context. And I feel that we are somehow very bureaucratic and not that agile in the sense. So it would need to be a little bit a part of the hierarchical structure of the local governments. So it would be interesting to see if there was something like an agency who can do it without earning money, for example, that could be paid by the state. But I don't know if anyone else is from the German context, but I don't know of any of those kind of projects yet.
I think, Ricardo, this is really a good remark to the German situation. And yes, of course. So I'm also in contact with the German Association of Energy Communities, Bundesbürgerenergie. And I know guys from there who really kind of work now as consultants, to enable other people and also people who are interested in creating or developing an energy community to set up one. This means the whole scene is kind of helping themselves and also gives support among themselves how to finance, what is how to find kind of reasons to invest, etc., etc. And but it's a little bit a pity, that there's no energy agency or anything like this. So at least also from my knowledge, who is really deeply in this, because they do a lot of consulting, for example, with how to save electricity and also how to kind of make buildings more energy efficient, etc., etc. But this kind of really pushing forward the transition of kind of decentralized and energy distribution and consumption is a little bit neglected, because maybe too complex and too kind of. And there's also the competition of the municipality energy providers in many regions, because kind of municipal electricity or heat providers are still very strongly linked with the local government, because they pay taxes, they have kind of a turnover, and also they give money to the government and support them and for their households. So it's in Germany a bit difficult, but maybe I think the approach of Jean-Pierre and also of Susanne are really interesting for Germany, and maybe I will also talk with the colleagues from the Bundesbürgerenergie what they are going to do in this direction, because I know that they think a little bit about doing something like you do, Jean-Pierre and Susanne, to create a mechanism like this also for Germany or for certain, interested actors in the field of citizens energy.
Yeah. Bundesbürgerenergie is part of our ACE project.
Yeah, it's also part of the ACE project. Yeah.
Ursula and Katrina, we know them quite well. Yeah, good. Nice.
Okay. Anything else, or maybe Roland from the region of Hanover? What are your kind of activities to support energy communities? Do you also have maybe the challenge of financing and funding for them? What could you contribute as a district or regional representative to this topic, maybe?
Yeah, well, at quite at basic level to tell that our how we call it, our plan is to build not energy community, but to build a Genossenschaft, Energiegenossenschaft, our own energy. I don't know the word in English, Genossenschaft.
It's cooperative?
Energy cooperative, and to we just check how it could work, but it's not the way we talk about here. It's really quite complex, and it's definitely always the regional level, and I don't know how we can address all the inhabitants of the region of Hanover. So that would be the main problem. But yeah, we have told in Germany, the legislation isn't as it is in the Netherlands or in France or in other countries. So we have to go a long way, I think. But we have a new government on the national level. Perhaps it would be easier. Okay.
Hopefully.
I have to laugh myself. Sorry.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Roland.
And maybe
Susanne?
just to, yeah, thank you, Edgar. Maybe just to add up also on that, I think it's important to remind everyone that, of course, we're looking for municipalities, funds for public funds from governments, but also there's a wealth of public funds that should target energy communities that's come from the European level. So ResCoop has also produced sort of guidances on how managing authorities who have access to European funds, to InvestEU, to cohesion funds in particular, can use these funds and channel them to energy communities. So this is something that we've also, we're looking at that in the ACE project. We're trying to, well, ResCoop has really mapped all the funds, and we're also trying to think everyone in their own countries how to better access these funds.
Yeah, these existing.
And I think this is also key because we know that sometimes local or national governments are, changing, and but at least there is an envelope, like a pool of funding that is available at EU level. Of course, we know that EU funding is very stringent, and that's also good. But it's so it's not always easy to navigate. But really, in France, we have successful examples of, in particular, regions that are able to access this funding and then create open calls for energy communities, and then the technical assistance with also that and knowledge sharing that comes into question. But really, it's I think it's interesting and important to look at these sources of funding as well.
Yeah, thanks a lot. That's a good point, because many people do not know what possibilities exist and what and where to go to, to get a grant or a loan or whatever. And that's great. Yeah.
Maybe Edgar, we can share with you this sort of mapping of funding afterwards, and it really comes like as an add up of presented.
That's
slide.
it of the minutes, and your presentations. If you provide them now to our replicators, great. Yeah, this would be really nice if you could provide us this overview of funding possibilities. So, Andrea, do you have any more questions?
No, I think we're done also because we are like some minutes over. So
okay, so then I would share my screen for the last time and show you what will be next to all of the replicators, and then we can finish it. This is, by the way, there are some websites of the energy agencies in Germany where you can get access to the regional value creation calculator, but you have to register. So it's not that easy to get access to this tool. But there's, for example, the Energieagentur Rheinland-Pfalz who provides this. There's also one of the SAENA. This is from Saxonia, and there are many federal states and their agencies who provide this. But now let's come to the last section and what is next. Our next program point will be a virtual, so-called virtual showroom of renewable energy sources for energy communities, and we will plan this and schedule this for April. And well, that's it so far from our side. And so if you do not have any more questions, thanks a lot for joining here. Thanks a lot to Jean-Pierre, to Susanne, and also Sarah for your really valuable presentations and really interesting and inspiring examples. And we would like to keep in touch with you, because I think the exchange could also maybe go on via the Bündnis Bürgerenergie, because this is our common partner, you know, here, or at least mine and yours. So then also thanks to all of you from the Replicators program, and we are looking forward to seeing you then in our next webinar and workshop, and we will keep you informed about the next steps, and we will invite you then. And then have a nice day and see you soon. And thanks again very, very much, Susanne, Sarah, and Jean-Pierre for your great presentations. It was a pleasure, and also to get to know you and to discuss this topic here today with you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Pleasure.